While I would like to say that today's video is only for the purposes of entertainment, I cannot. This video carries a stark reminder of the consequences of stepping aside. We live in a world today where our children are mutilated, where rights are taken away as easily as a brushstroke. The minds of the masses are subjected to daily conditioning. This is a prison, made at the culmination of bad choices. But it is not too late to start making good choices. Let today's video and today's guide into history serve as a reminder of what kind of life and what kind of future you wish to build. The dynasty of the Ptolemies began as the bringing together of two cultures. Alexandria was the pinnacle of one man's dream, a dream which quickly became a nightmare, as his descendants prioritized their own wants over the needs of their people. The country was split down the middle in civil war. More and more power was given to a foreign nation, as the ones on the throne became more and more inadequate. Many died in war and famine, taxes soared, families became divided, and the people, who were blinded by the decadence of glory and pride, cheered all of this. How does this all move forward? Well, it certainly does, but not quite upwards, more downwards. Let us start by looking again at the Temple of Horus in Geba. The temple was not officially consecrated until 70 BCE, more than 167 years after the foundations were consecrated by Ptolemy III. Was this a form of appeasement to the Egyptian culture from a Greek and out-of-touch royal family? A sort of peace offering? Or was it a relic of a dream that one general had to bring together two cultures in peace? While Ptolemy VI and VIII had rivaled for the throne, and then Ptolemy VIII's two wives had split the country in two, the people had been stuck in the middle, just trying to keep their lives together, trying to make a living during a time where enemies seemed to be on the throne and at the door, as Rome was fully at the age of expansion. The Ptolemaic territory of Cyrenaica fell into Roman territory 75 BC, leaving only Cyprus as the last Ptolemaic territory. Not that the pharaohs cared much. After the passing of Ptolemy VIII, his second wife, Cleopatra III, was made ruler of Egypt, and was asked to make one of Ptolemy's two sons regent until they were ready to rule alone. She chose Ptolemy IX. And while it was meant to be just the easy transition of power, it was anything but. Ptolemy IX and Ptolemy X fought for the throne following Ptolemy IX's removal and Ptolemy X's subsequent ascent. Ptolemy IX had greater allies than X, so in desperation, Ptolemy turned to Rome for military support. This was not so much a deal with the devil, but instead the final nail after what Ptolemy VIII had done to give power to Rome. But even with this power, military support was not Rome's only interest. When someone was being invaded by Rome, there were two choices available to them. Either they could stand against Rome with their dignity intact, but ultimately most likely be crushed under Rome's sheer mass. Or they could stand aside, let their dignity and their country be enslaved to the Roman Empire. Ptolemy X chose the latter, and thought it the lesser of two evils. Would you agree? Rome quickly saw an opportunity and made Egypt's Nile Valley a hub for exportation. To reflect, Egypt had, in just the span of a century, gone from the head of a dynasty to just another chip for Rome to bet with. Ptolemy XII followed suit in this pathetic headspace. He had the habit of showing himself in the pageantry of a god, calling himself the new Dionysus or the young Osiris, a fact which is laughable when looking at the country he ruled. Rather than a thriving economy through harvest or trade, the country was in continual debt to Rome. For example, when Pompey the Great conquered the Seleucid kingdom, Ptolemy attempted to garner favour, giving 8,000 men to Pompey's ranks, and funded Pompey's invasion of Palestine by emptying the royal treasury, forcing tax rises, and cutting into public expenditure. The result of this, on the home front, was a revolt from the Egyptian people, who had lived through generations of hard times and had enough of Rome and everything associated with it. Ptolemy asked for help to quell the revolt, and Rome gave none. If this man could not even run his country stably, how could he be expected to be taken seriously by anyone, let alone Rome? Soon Julius Caesar entered the stage, with Ptolemy hearing that Caesar would raise the question of Egypt in the Roman Senate in 59 BCE. Ptolemy tried to pay him off by giving half of Egypt's revenue in exchange for recognition as Egypt's king and a friend to Rome. A king does not ask, he tells. What was Ptolemy's reward? Cyprus was taken by Rome less than a year later, and his brother was driven to suicide. All the while, Ptolemy kept quiet. But the people did not. They drove Ptolemy XII into exile, and his oldest daughter, Berenice, became queen in her father's place. The first place Ptolemy went to while in exile was Rhodes, to speak to the Roman magistrate, who was at the time on the bog having taken a laxative. To think, the pharaoh, the living incarnation of Ra, who had crushed kingdoms underfoot, now pleaded to a mid-level politician with a bad case of the tum-tums. Apparently, Ptolemy said enough, and sold enough of his dignity to return 55 BCE with an army loaned from Gabinius, the governor of Syria. Ptolemy had his oldest daughter, who actually had a backbone against Rome and had been running the country competently, executed, and Egypt was named as the provincial branch of Rome's central bank. Selling his country, his people, his daughter, and himself for a nice hat and a fancy chair. By this point, Ptolemy knew that the writing was on the wall, and his days were numbered. Did he suspect that he was about to be supplanted by Rome, or that his people would revolt again? Either was possible, so he partook in some image upkeep, and commissioned a temple to Hathor in Lunet in 54 BCE, before he made his younger daughter his regent in 52 BCE to secure his position, obviously not wanting a repeat of the power struggle there had been previously. Not too soon it seems, as Ptolemy XII died a year later, leaving his daughter as the new monarch of Egypt. What was her name? Cleopatra. What follows is the reign of one of the most famous, or infamous, monarchs to exist in history, with just as much fiction around her as there is fact. Yet we can already say, after looking at her ancestors and what she had to inherit from her own father, it is quite impressive that she was able to be at least a competent ruler and keep her head above water. We will look at this all in detail when the time comes, but until then, thank you all for watching, and until next time, peace be with you.